now we will broadcast for you the news in English on Radio Free Syria.
Welcome to our news hour in English. I am وموقعنا and I will be with you during this news hour from Radio Free Syria. We will start with the local coordination committees. The local coordination committees of Syria, by the end of Thursday, the LC managed to document 148 marches thus far, including 6 women, 4 children, and 3 under torture. 51 marches were reported in Damascus and suburbs. 12 of them were reported in the Faculty of Architecture in Damascus, 42 in Daraa, 12 in Aleppo, 15 in Homs, 5 in Deir ez-Zor, 5 in Idlib, 5 in Hasaka, and 3 in Quneitra and Hama. The FSA clashed with the regime forces in 126 points, during which he was able to completely liberate Da'il from the regime forces and take control of all checkpoints. In Khirbet Ghazala in Daraa, the FSA targeted barracks located east of the city with mortar. Same happened with the artillery battalion in Daraa located next to Panorama Stadium. In Damascus, the FSA targeted an Iranian plane loaded with weapons while it was landing in Damascus International Airport and targeted Massa military airport with several missiles. In Skalbiya in Hama, FSA bombed a Shabiha base, killing several of them. In Qamhana, also in Hama, the FSA ambushed regime forces, killing 8, and targeted Tel Atman and Mghayr checkpoint in Hama using rocket launchers. The FSA also targeted Hamas airport with long-range missiles, resulting in a direct hit near airport control tower and inflicting heavy losses to regime army. In Crac de Chevalier in Homs, the FSA attacked all checkpoints around the city and hit several Shabiha gathering locations. In Qusayr, checkpoint of Nabi Mendo was liberated. More than 80 Shabihas were killed and all weapons and ammunition were seized. General news now. According to Reuters, Russia voted on Thursday to oppose an expected push by the Syrian opposition to take over Syria's seat at the United Nations and predicted that any Syrian national coalition bid at the world body would fail. Russia UN Ambassador Vitaly Churkin made the comment to reporters after Moscow criticized the Arab League for giving Syria's seat to the opposition at the League summit. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said the Arab League had abandoned hope for a peaceful end to Syria's 2-year civil war. We'll oppose it very strongly, Churkin said in response to a question about a likely Syrian opposition move in New York to follow its success in gaining Arab League recognition. But I don't think it is going to happen because most of the members of the United Nations are responsible members that value this institution, he said. I think they understand that if something of this sort were to happen, it would really undercut the standing of the United Nations. You do not simply sit opposition groups who have gone through no proper process of legitimization, he said. We need to have legitimate authorities. Several Security Council diplomats said the Syrian National Coalition, which is establishing liaison officials in New York and Washington, will make a play for Syrian UN seat. The coalition's U.S. offices are headed by Najib Ghadban, a professor of political science at the University of Arkansas. Ghadban said it would make sense for the opposition to have Syrian UN seat. The Assad regime is not a legitimate government, Ghadban said in a statement to Reuters. It lost the legitimacy to represent Syria the day it began its armed campaign against the Syrian people, which has resulted in death, destruction, and a humanitarian catastrophe that requires immediate attention from the international community. One senior Western diplomat said, on condition of anonymity, that the opposition may push for the Syrian UN seat in September, when world leaders gather at the United Nations for the annual high-level meeting of the UN General Assembly. An Arab diplomat, however, told Reuters a move to transfer the Syrian UN seat to the opposition could come much sooner. The Syrian National Coalition, which is recognized by the Arab League as the Sole representative for Syria opened its first embassy on Wednesday in Qatar in a diplomatic blow to President Bashar al-Assad. Russia is a member of the nine-nation UN Credentials Committee. As the United States, that committee reviews requests to accredit diplomats to the UN and makes recommendations to the General Assembly. Russia does not have a veto on that committee or in the 193-nation General Assembly, but it does have a veto on the Security Council, which has been deadlocked on Syria since 2011. Russia and China have refused to consider sanctions on Assad's government, voting 3 resolutions condemning his crackdown on opposition groups. Russia, which supplies arms to Assad's government but says it is not delivering weapons that could be used in the civil war, has vehemently opposed arming or supporting the rebels. There are 140 nations, well over half of the members of the General Assembly. In the so-called Friends of Syria, Western and Arab diplomats say those countries would like support the Syrian National Coalition in any General Assembly vote. Most countries have recognized the Syrian coalition as a legitimate representative of the Syrian people, Ghadban said, adding that the UN can help ensure a stable transition in Syria to a peaceful, democratic, and inclusive state structure by granting Syria UN seat to Syria's opposition. Syria's UN ambassador Bashar al-Ja'fari did not respond to a request for comment. The Syrian conflict began as peaceful protests that turned violent when Assad tried to crush the revolt. The United Nations says more than 70,000 people have been killed and nearly 1.2 million have fled the violence. There are several precedents for a national opposition movement taking over a country's UN seat. In 2010, the General Assembly recognized a representative of Alassane Ouattara as Ivory Coast UN ambassador. In doing so, the General Assembly recognized Ouattara as Ivory Coast legitimate president after the United Nations said he beat former President Laurent Gbagbo in an election. 15 Syrian students were killed when rebel mortar shell hit a Damascus University canteen Thursday, state-run news agency Sana said, as attacks intensified in the center of the capital, according also to Reuters. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, an opposition monitoring group, said a mortar killed 13 people at the university without saying who fired the bombs. Other activists confirmed the attack, but no opposition groups has denied or claimed responsibility. Insurgents trying to end 4 decades of rule by the family of President Bashar al-Assad have formed a semicircle around the capital and intensified attacks from positions on the outskirts this week. A bastion for Assad's forces, the capital city is a crucial prize in a 2-year-old uprising that has developed into a war in which more than 70,000 people have been killed. Another 1.2 million Syrians have also fled to neighboring countries and North Africa, where they have registered as refugees or are awaiting processing, according to the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. Highlighting the strain the conflict is placing on neighborhood states, Turkey, host to about 260,000 of the refugees, denied on Thursday it had rounded up and deported hundreds of Syrians following unrest at a refugee camp. Sana said mortars rounds landed in a canteen at the College of Architecture in Baramke, a central district near several governments' buildings, including the Defense of Ministry, the headquarters for state media, and Assad's official residence. Pro-government Al-Ikhbariya TV showed images of doctors trying to rescue at least 2 young men and blood on the floor for what appeared to be an outdoor canteen. A young woman was shown walking in a hospital, her face bleeding heavily. Sana quoted the president of Damascus University as saying the death toll initially put at 12 had risen to 15 in what state and pro-government media called a terroristic attack. Last week, rebel groups sent out warnings on the internet that they plan to intensify strikes on government and military sites in the city and warned residents they should leave to avoid what they called Operation Shaking the Fort. The United Nations said on Monday it would withdraw about half of its international staff from Damascus after a mortar bomb landed near their hotel. The Syrian military has responded to rebel attacks with artillery shelling and airstrike on suburbs where rebels are entrenched among thousands of civilians trapped in crossfire. On Thursday, opposition activists said rebels had taken the main bus station in northeastern Damascus. They provided footage of fighters walking around a deserted area and stamping on the framed pictures of Assad. Also, according to Al Jazeera, Syrian rebels have seized an important town on a main highway between Damascus and the south of Dar'a province on the border with Jordan, a UK-based watchdog said. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights has said on Friday that 10 civilians, including a child, were killed in fighting for Da'il, the latest to be seized by the rebels over the past 24 hours. Rebels seized control of Da'il after destroying the 3 army checkpoints at the entrance to the town. The town is located on a main road linking Dar'a to Damascus. At least 15 rebels and a media activist working with the rebels were also killed, along with 12 loyalist troops. Large swathes of Dar'a province are now under rebel control. Their advance in the south is escalating, Rabi Abdulrahman, the director, told the AFP news agency. The rebels are inching closer to the provincial capital, and several towns and villages are now out of army's hands. Dar'a is cut off almost completely from Damascus. Alarm in the parliament. The capture of Dar'a came a day after a loyalist MP from the province raised the alarm in parliament. Walid al-Zu'bi said the rebels were advancing in all towns and villages in Dar'a province, which is turned from east to west after the army withdrew from many positions. They may have pulled out of tactical reasons, we don't know, but at any rate, terrorists from al-Nusra Front have taken their place. He added of a group with roots in Iraq, which is blacklisted by Washington as a terroristic organization. On Sunday, activists reported that the rebels had seized a swath of land stretching 25 kilometers east to west along the Jordanian border to the sensitive ceasefire line between Syria and Israel. On the outskirts of Damascus, new violence erupted in several districts, including Qabun and Yarmouk, according to activists. It came after at least 15 people, 14 students and a child, were killed in a mortar attack on Damascus University on Thursday. They were among at least 150 people killed nationwide, 52 civilians, 61 rebels, and 37 soldiers. In all, more than 70,000 people have been killed in Syria since March 2011, the UN said. This was it for today. Thank you very much for listening. I am Marwan Kadro, along with me, Executive Manager Islam. Please follow us on freesyriaradio.webs.com. You can also reach us through Skype on Syrian42. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Right now, we will broadcast for you the news in English on Radio Free Syria.